Did you hear about the fortune teller that went out of business? Turns out he didn't see it coming. I mean, you'd think with all those tarot cards, crystal balls, and palm readings, he'd have had a premonition or two about his own fate. But nope, not a peep. Now don't get me wrong, he was a regular Nostradamus when it came to other people's futures. He'd tell you when you'd meet your soulmate, predict your next promotion, even warn you about that flat tire next Tuesday. But when it came to his own shop going under, he was as clueless as a bat in daylight. Let's just say his crystal ball must have been on the fritz. Or maybe his tarot cards got shuffled into a bad deck. Either way, it's a tale of irony as thick as Mississippi mud. So remember, folks, even the ones who claim to see the future can miss the mark sometimes. Now let's switch the gears a bit. Ever been to a haunted house that made you laugh instead of scream? Well, let me spin you a yarn about an evening that started with chills, but ended in chuckles. Picture it, a decrepit old mansion on a hill, creaking and moaning under the weight of its own spooky reputation. You'd expect the usual, right? Shadows darting in the corners of your eyes, eerie whispers, maybe even a phantom or two. But this, my friends, was no ordinary haunted house. We stepped into the gloom, hearts pounding, expecting the worst. But instead of blood-curdling screams, we were met with the clattering bones of a skeleton. Tap dancing. Yes, you heard me right, folks. This bony Fred Astaire was cutting a rug like it was going out of style. Rattling and clacking away, he was more entertaining than terrifying. Then, as we ventured deeper, we stumbled upon a ghost, a real specter, mind you, but this one seemed to be having a bit of trouble. Instead of floating through walls, he was stuck, half in, half out, wailing in frustration. Now, I don't know about you, but there's something inherently funny about a ghost who can't do ghost things right. We couldn't help but burst out laughing, and it didn't stop there. We had ghouls tripping over their own chains, banshees who couldn't hold a note, and a headless horseman who kept misplacing his pumpkin head. It was like watching a supernatural comedy of errors. So instead of running out screaming, we left with our sides aching from laughter. And that's the tale of the haunted house that was more hilarious than horrifying. It just goes to show you, even the supernatural can have a sense of humor. And maybe, just maybe, the things we fear can end up being the things that make us laugh the hardest. So, next time you visit a haunted house, keep an eye out. You might just find a ghost with a sense of humor. Speaking of the unexpected, have you ever heard about the monster who was afraid of humans? Now, I know that sounds like a punchline waiting to happen, but let me tell you, it's no joke. There was this monster, see, big as a house, teeth like daggers, and a roar that could shake the mountains. But this fella had a secret. He was scared to death of us humans. He'd see a human and scream louder than a possum caught in a bear trap, and run. Boy, you've never seen anything move so fast in your life. Now, you might think that's a bit backwards. Aren't we supposed to be the ones running from the monsters? But this big guy turned the tables on us, and let me tell you, the sight of a 10-foot monster scampering off into the woods like a frightened rabbit is something else. It was more of a comedy show than a horror story. And the screams. Oh, the screams. Imagine the most terrifying monster roar you've ever heard. Now add a dash of surprise, a pinch of panic, and a whole lot of high-pitched shrieking. It was like a chorus of 1,000 scaredy cats set to the tune of a horror movie soundtrack. So, not all monsters are scary. Some are just misunderstood comedians. Well, that's all the time we have for today's tales of humor and horror. We've traversed through the unfortunate fortunes, chuckled amidst the haunting hilarity, and even dared to mock the monsters. But remember, folks, it's all in good fun. Who says you can't find comedy in the creepiest of corners? So if you found yourself chuckling or even screaming a little, do us a favor and hit that like button. And remember to subscribe for more laughs, scares, and everything in between.